Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 434. This is your guide to the geek side, and this is a palindrome. And I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, joined by Charlie Carden.
You know what? There's no math in palindrome. I deride it. I deride you, sir. Derision? Derizzle? Dr. Dre? I've worked it all the way backwards.
I don't think you're able to say drizzle anymore.
No, yes, I know. You can't just call them that. We were talking in the pre-roll about generational names, and oh my God. So we came up with the silent generation to the baby boomers to the Gen X, which is us, because Todd and I are pushing 50. Then where do we go from there?
Millennials. 81 to 96.
Yep. Yeah, so that's not even, and so then Gen Z is our kids. And then now there's something else. 2010 plus, they're the
alpha. Our podcasting child is Mark, really, so he's our millennial.
He is our millennial. He is. But I mean, we're Gen Xers, and I always like to say, in the words of my generation, whatever. So yeah, I put it on my tombstone.
Everything had an X in the 90s. It was extreme. It was X Games.
Women with a Y. It was an X or a Y. XY chromosome. Anyway, aren't we so wonderfully off topic already? But glad to have everybody here, but we're none the more glad, super glad, all the way glad, to give some extra special love to our Patreons over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. These are the wonderful folks who give us the fuel to make some fun extra content. Todd, you rolled out a new program this week over on our Patreon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Fansplaining, where I bring on a fan to talk about something they love, and we did Transformers, all things about this person, their love for Transformers, and we actually did a review of The Rise of the Beasts.
Oh, nice.
And it was a person that we have podcasted with the past, and that person is Tricky Kappa, who really does cool VTuber stuff. So if you want to watch the episode with a free trial, which you can now, it's very cool. It's very fun to see Tricky on there, and we had a great conversation. I have episode number 2 probably coming out in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Awesome. And just in the last couple of weeks, I did push out on our network feed, if that's how you subscribe, one of our initial programs, which was my show, The Facts of Geek Life, where a guest and I take a season of a classic genre show. In this case, it was part 1 of the 1970s classic Buck Rogers with my partner, Jonathan Snedeker, just to give you a little taste of what we do over there. So again, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Free 1-week trial at any one of our tier levels gets you a chance to check out our content. But commercial, plug. Want to talk about on the Best Buds level, Jamie Pranky. And over on the BFFs level, the awesome Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry, my dear friend and contributor to this network, Missy Merchant, and her pal, Andy Milliken. We are grateful for you. But I'm always grateful to see what kind of crazy covers we got over and we got this covered. So to this week, November 1963, we have issue number, what the hell episode are we on? 434. So this is issue 34 of a DC Comics title called Challengers of the Unknown. You know, call me a cautious guy. I don't challenge the unknown. I'm like, unknown? Be unknown. I don't need to mess with you. Live and let live. But in this case, that's not what they did, because you got some dudes it's not even unitards. They're wearing brown pants, which is always easy if you poop your pants, I suppose.
I thought it's purple. I think it's purple.
Oh, it looks brown to me. Well, anyway, they have unicolored outfits, but so it's a brown pants, long sleeve brown shirt, and white gloves, which doesn't make sense for the sea because they're on a boat, or maybe even just on. Oh, they're on land. They're on land, but what they're facing is King Multiman, Monarch of Menace, is joined by Multi-Woman, Queen of Disaster. And she appeared. Oh, in one of the guys, we've got the 3 hair colors. One guy is a ginger, the other guy's a blonde, and the other dude has black hair. Blonde says, "Look, he's found a giant mate, and she's even more destructive than he is." So I'm going to skip the obvious question of how the mating part goes down. because he's got a big bald head, so I'm not going to use my imagination, and I would encourage you not to do the same. And we'll just move on from that. But anyway, Multi-Woman has stomped a boat in half, so I would assume, there's another guy in the corner. So yeah, we do have the colors of the rainbow. We have the red, the blonde, the black hair, and then the brunette, like I was before this. No gray-haired guy, very discriminatory. But Todd, they do have a bald guy. He's the villain. But it looks like Multi-Woman has stomped their boat in half.
And they have matching outfits, which is great. They have a cape,
I do. I like it.
Sleeveless shirt, and I guess wrestling shorts.
Yep, she's wearing those big shorts and boots. And yeah, I mean, obviously the hook, what's going to get you back in November of 1963, which was a very dark time for our country. Remember, that was when JFK was assassinated in November of 1963. But do keep in mind the date versus the street date. It means it's generally about 3 months beforehand. That because the street date, that means your typical comic is able to be on a newsstand for 3 months before it gets yanked. So that this got
it's so timely, right? I mean,
very much so.
It might age. You might, might not be a timely story. But Charlie, let me tell you a little bit about Challengers of the Unknown.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know who created Challengers of the Unknown?
Was it Carmine Infantino, the Stan Lee of DC Comics? No,
it was actually Jack Kirby.
It's not even his art.
I know. Well, he had moved on past this point.
Oh, gotcha.
He had made it the dawn of the Silver Age. Yeah, because this is issue 34. So, and basically it was about a group of 4 survivors who almost died in a plane crash, and they decided that time is wasted they're going to discover what happens in the unknown. So that's
get a
calling.
Boat. Yeah,
exactly.
And get a boat, and then they don't have a boat.
And those people were pilot Ace Morgan, wrestler Rocky Davis, acrobat Red Ryan, and professional diver Professor Haley.
Professional diver. Okay. And yes, covered by all 4 acceptable hair colors. That's it. Yes. That's all you can have. Exactly. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm looking at Multi-Woman, and who she really reminds me of, if not perhaps, incongruous to the stature, but simply the attitude, that would be our number one news correspondent. I'm talking about Madam Webb at 123 years young, down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, with all of the latest news for us. Let's get a step on, figure out what's going on this week.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. My goodness, Madam Webb. Yes, Multi-Woman was in the last comic, and I believe you ran under the moniker of Minimal Woman, and you just couldn't be bothered. So you did very little, and you achieved very little. So, I think I would say success achieved.
It really paid off. Speaking of really paying off, which I don't know if this will, seems like such an odd matchup. We're getting news of things that are still being produced, or I would assume done being produced. We're getting news that the character of Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, who we talked about 2003 just last week. One of the big films that year, in the early part of the year, was Daredevil, starring Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I remember I took my old girlfriend Courtney to that movie. That's how I remember it. I think we went for Valentine's Day. It was that early in the year.
A bootleg DVD in Saudi Arabia, Charlie.
But yeah, it's returning after nearly 20 years in Deadpool 3. Yes, this is the news coming down the pike. I'm guessing that the film has to be in the can. What do you think? This seems like kind of a weird combination for me. Now, we've got Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. There's has been a lot of kind of Wolverine like plugging, like Deadpool always has, like, well, if Logan can do this, like he's been plugging away in his movies. This is the first Deadpool movie that's being made under the umbrella of Disney since the Fox purchase. But I just, Elektra was in that film, was successful enough that she got a spinoff, which which, if I'm not mistaken, didn't really blow the doors off.
I saw it on a plane. I think it was a movie on a plane.
I mean, without a doubt, it was a critical failure because it was terrible, in my opinion. But I don't know really how it did. But
so the Daredevil cinematic universe never came together.
Yes, that was the crash of it. So yeah, but again, I can see how Logan can be played for laughs because it's been built up. But you're bringing in Jennifer Garner. I mean, Jennifer Garner, she's done some comedic stuff, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Do you think Yeah,
She was, what is it, 13 going on 30 or 30
there
going
you
on
go.
13. Great movie. She was one of the girls in Dude, Where's My Car? Fun fact. Yeah.
Very fun fact. Returning cast of Marina Baccarin, Karan Soni, Brianna Hildebrand, and Leslie Uggams returning as the X-Force and the other folks. Yes, let's see. A script from franchise mainstay Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick and Matthew McFadden from Succession. I don't know which character he is. I don't know. They're not all household names for me. I assume he's probably Kendall, the one of the the one of the brothers. I don't know. Todd, have you watched any more of that show?
I really want to. It's like, where do I watch it? How do I juggle more things? There's so many shows out. I'm like, oh my goodness, this show's on season 2. And I'm like, oh, I have to watch season 1. It's so crazy. But I want to watch it before I get spoiled, because I was even listening to a podcast today. They were talking about, should we spoil it? And I'm like, oh crap, can I fast forward this? And they didn't, because they're like, it's still early. But I'm running out of time because I will get spoiled, and I know it. So
it's true. Yeah, I better dive in. The show has been over for about a month, so it's just there's no station.
That's enough. Here's 4 seasons.
That's enough. Here you go. Exactly. Yeah, this movie scheduled to come. This is a summer movie for next year, so this is going to kick off the summer season. This is Fox,
unless
the MCU's kickoff
happens, and then all bets are off.
I figured this was in the can if they have a date. No,
they're filming it. They're still producing it, doing all the stuff. They just saw Ryan Reynolds in the costume. So, and they're worried about the fact that he might write some of his improv, which would be a no. So, same thing here. All projects currently doing anything with actors, even if it's scripted, could cease to happen. July 12th is when we get a confirmation on whether they go to strike or not. So we'll see there. But Charlie, I think this is, I guess in a weird way, this is like the 20th Century Fox Marvel films opportunity to just go crazy. Everything we ever wanted in those films, like the 2 weird Fantastic Four series. We got a Punisher film, I think. Isn't that what we had? Do we have a Punisher film? I think they were under Fox, weren't they?
Yeah, they must have been, because they have the license, or maybe those were those were Lionsgate. So I don't know who has Lionsgate back in the day.
Not going to break my brain, but still, this potentially could be that, because now all those things I think fall into. I mean, you could get some really crazy things. I mean, you could get like Dolph Lundgren showing up as the Punisher. You could get anybody else showing up as the Punisher, because we've had many of those movies. Although Ray Stevenson passed away, so we won't be. We could get we could get Blade showing up. I mean, we could get Wesley Snipes showing up as Blade. We could get Steven Dorff showing up.
Unbelievable.
He died in that movie, didn't. But I mean, we could get like all the crazy stuff. We could get, and I'm expecting we're going to see some. I've heard rumors that we're going to get other X-Men from those Fox films show up too.
I love it.
And I certainly hope we get like Wolverine in every damn version of a costume that has ever existed. So we get like the brown, we get the blue and yellow. We get him as Patch. We get every weird iteration. We get him when he's like feral and has bone claws. I want all of those things. I want all the wacky, the crazy. I've heard Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen may show up as well. But I mean, dig deep, go in, go crazy, have fun. Kelsey Grammer could show up as Beast. Who knows?
I mean, they snagged him back. I watched Days of Future Past not that long ago, and it was just blown away by that. But all right, well, we will find out about that. Obviously, everything's in flux. As always, we do fully support those striking WGA writers. We hope that with 2 months in that we're going to get a little bit closer to those folks getting what they need to be able to make their living. So we are with you in solidarity. So, all right, well, let's go from the crazy to the crazier. Daniel Kaluuya, who is an actor who's been on the scene for a few years now. He's been in the Jordan Peele films. He's in the MCU or was in the first Black Panther film. What else? What was he in this summer? He was Spider-Punk in Spider-Verse. Wasn't that him? But anyway, Daniel Kaluuya's live-action Barney movie is an A24 type film for adults. And then I love the subhead on this. Mattel's post-Barbie plans include 45 toy-related films.
Etch-a-Sketch? Rock'em Sock'em Robots? We already got Real Steel.
I mean, you got Mousetrap, Sorry, Monopoly.
We're supposed to still get that Clue remake with Ryan Reynolds and everybody else, which I really want. But
gotcha. Oh my God! So anyway, we're a couple of weeks out from what are they called in Barbieheimer? Because Barbie and Oppenheimer come out.
I feel like we have so many people on the internet just memeing things and willing things to life, like that's a thing. And
right,
I've seen people that want the half shirt, and I'm like, okay, great, awesome,
Yeah, right.
enjoy your movie.
Right.
But this one's an odd one because Kaluuya, it's so weird because this is like something where Barney and Friends, they premiered in PBS in 1992. They made a lot of toys. It was widely popular. It was well off the radar when by the time my son was of a young kid. So I get to skip that. It's widely known. There's I think a documentary about how toxic it was and the kids being mistreated and just a lot of weird things.
I didn't know any of that.
It's not great. It's not great. But this is interesting. The fact that the producers are saying they want to make this more adult. They said it would be so daring of us and really underscore that we're here to make art. When I hear that, I'm like, I don't know what lens they are thinking about moving Barney in, but if they're going to be dystopian, do we really need that?
I'm gonna vote no. I just, I understand swinging for the fences and being on the edge, but take a couple of steps back from the edge. It's like that. Remember the Winnie the Pooh horror movie that came out?
Yes,
no, you don't, because nobody saw it. It doesn't exist. Really, I mean, it's already been out, right?
Yeah, it came out as direct to video. I mean, it was just so low budget. And it's like it's almost like the Snakes in the Plane. It's like trying to be something and willing it into an existence.
But you remember Snakes on a Plane? It's a camp crap classic.
It's a joke.
Yeah, nobody's talking about Winnie the Pooh murdering people. So anyway, I would love it very much if this disappeared into nothingness. So
I mean, we already got Death to Smoochie, Charlie.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. So I vote for, instead of this, give me the Mousetrap movie. Hit me up. Come on, Mattel. Where did I tell you the hotel that we stayed in right before we came back from LA after the cruise was right next to the U.S. Mattel headquarters, and there was the Hampton. We stayed in El Segundo, California, right next to a big Mattel building, and they had a store front in there, and we were there on a Friday night or something. So I'm like, babe, let's walk over, before dinner or whatever. Mm-hmm. Walked in there, and we're talking to these nice young ladies. She said the absolute worst people that come in here, and this verifies everything that toy collector friends of mine who walk the aisles, Hot Wheels people. Oh, really? Hot Wheels people are vicious, fighting with each other. I mean, that is every toy. Every time, and again, at me over on Twitter if you're a Hot Wheels guy and you want to talk to us about that, at the C3, or of course at the Secret Friends U. But any figure collector knows, as you're walking the aisles, you'll see a Mattel guy going, or you'll see a Hot Wheels guy going flip, 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 looking for that. Oh, I need the '67 Camaro, boop, and hey, if there's only one and there's two dudes there, get the knives. It's knives out, baby.
Security aisle 12.
Yeah, exactly. You got some help. Yeah. So anyway,
well, Charlie, I'm surprised you didn't try to sneak into their headquarters and like, nothing to see here. I'm in the plumbing company.
Yeah, with the mustache. So much like Todd has taken on Mark Bagley, I'm throwing down against Hot Wheels guys, along with the rest of the figure community. You guys are weird.
They're even like amongst the figure community. We've never seen them before. They're not. They're a subset. We don't know.
They're a subset. But anyway, all right. Moving along. What do we have next?
Yes. So this headline caught my eye because I'm like thinking about Mattel has like 45 projects, and I'm like thinking, well, of course. Then now we've got Blumhouse. The horror like darlings who make movies for cheap and they do great. Right. They are making a Magic 8-Ball movie, and it's being written by the Cocaine Bear writer.
What?
It's like we got peanut butter and jelly together. We got peanut butter and chocolate, Charlie. This just writes itself. I mean, and the reason why I put in so folks, just behind the scenery, when we do a link to a story, and this story is by who is this by? Geek Tyrant.
Geek Tyrant.
I take their link and I put something kind of like summarizes up, and I said, Far Soil says the reason, Charlie. One of my favorite comics as a kid, I saw him on, his name was Jake Johansson. If that comic, he's a kind of a goofy guy, glasses, curly hair. Very funny. But one of his bits was he talked about he's trading stories with this guy, and he mentions Magic 8 Ball, and he goes, "Oh, you ever heard of Magic 8 Ball?" And the guy responds with "Far Soil." He's like, "Far Soil?" Like, it's just a great bit. And he said that's the liquid in the Magic 8 Ball is Far Soil, which is like, okay, so
that's why okay. Far Soil.
That's what I meant though. So it always makes me think of that. It makes me think of that.
I was looking at this link at this picture, and I thought maybe that was an acronym going down because it's fortune teller, paperweight, ornament, conversation piece, FPOC, FPOC.
No.
FPOC. No, it's not FPOC.
It's the liquid. Okay. It's the liquid in the Magic 8 Ball. But yes, Magic 8 Ball, of course. I mean, we think about it like Ouija board has been a horror film.
Right.
We got crystal balls, divination, anything that you do typically to bring about like going beyond the ether and summoning something. Well, the Magic 8 Ball, it's probably not so supernatural, but if you were going to take something that's common object is part of our art of our pop culture lens, it's the perfect thing to do because everybody knows it, and it's that that chance of fate and cursed question you might ask, like, am I going to die?
I was going to say, Todd, will this film be successful?
Check back later.
Not so likely. Outcome not so
likely. Later, right? That's like my least favorite. Check again later.
Yeah. I don't know that I've owned one of these since childhood, but anyway, yeah. So this Magic 8 Ball's been around since the 1950s, and the most common, the thing that's in the zeitgeist that I remember was the opening sequence of the first Shazam film. You have young Dr. Savannah in the back seat of their Lincoln Town car. His dad is mean John Glover, and he's playing with the Magic 8 Ball. And then as he's flipping it, that's when the wizard makes the Magic 8 Ball thing go, here's a symbol. And then, that's my thought of Magic 8 Ball. But let's see here. Yeah, so this is one of Mattel's 45 projects, it sounds like, because Magic 8 Ball is theirs, yeah. I mean, Cocaine Bear was a delight. So if this is like Cocaine Bear, I'm in. Let's do it.
I don't know if you make this humorous. You go all in like a Final Destination. Is there like you see a creature coming out of the Magic 8 Ball through the Far Soil? I don't know. I mean, it could be crazy.
Yeah, it's a Final Destination meets Insidious, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I'm into it. Obviously, all these ideas are being thrown around, but we're on the cusp of absolutely nothing being made.
Oh,
and we're in the middle of it anyway. Unless this is already in the can. What is it? I didn't see it.
It's not. So this is just starting produced. There's a script on hand, but it's probably going to be revised down. But this reminds me, Charlie, of going deep in. There was a Rubik's Cube cartoon in the 80s. Of course there was, because everything had a cartoon.
Why not?
And the Rubik's Cube was actually like an alien who spoke and had magical abilities. So I'm assuming they're not doing that. Like it's going to be like the Magic 8 Ball, and he's like 80. Hey, guys, check it out. Ask me any questions.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
All right. We are, we're sinking even deeper into the bizarre. So let's just keep it going. Barbie and Oppenheimer, aka Barbieheimer, comes out in a couple of weeks, and we'll be Todd, I've got my tickets, so I know that we'll be talking about those films because we're both. I think my partner Kay is going to come back and join us to talk about Barbie. So very excited about that. But anyway,
I may have to hold off because the wife wants to watch it with me, but she's may not be able to watch it right away, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
You might have to see, Todd, you may have to break your own rule for the sake of the show and see it twice, because the show must go on. We've got to be timely. You got to jump on it. You can't sleep on that.
I shall see.
You can't sleep on that. But anyway, we got a little bit of Barbie. Looking back, the only Barbie or a young lady named Barbara who I've ever met who went by Barbie, it was in the dorms at MSU. I think it was maybe the year that I met you, as a young blonde lady from Westland, which is next to Livonia, which is where our friend John is from. See?
I had an Aunt Barbara, but she never went by Barbie.
There you go. Very weird. But we're talking about Barbie back in the 1990s, having her own Marvel comic. And so, the slug line here, Barbie used to have her own Marvel comic, and it was kind of weird. And before I clicked on this, when I just got the preview, I thought, we're going to talk about Gem and the Holograms, right? Because that's kind of what this picture looks like. You got Barbie and three friends. And again, we're going with, we have two blondes. That other girl's going to die, isn't she? Is that the setup? Is that the weird
I
part?
think it's Skipper. Her. So Barbie, the younger sister was Skipper. Because I had a sister, Charlie. You did not have any. You didn't have a sister, so you probably wouldn't have been Barbie as much.
The only Barbie I hear about is kind of post the fact that it was big with my wife April enjoyed Barbie when she was young. But didn't hear much about it as a kid. But what was so weird about the Barbie comic? Break it down for me.
So it's kind of weird because obviously in the 90s, this comic came out in 1991. I was wondering, like, is this under like the Star Comics brand? Because Marvel did like some licensed stuff under Star, which was the younger kids. This was not. It was fully a Marvel comic. Kind of a weird time to come out.
Another great comic that came out in 1991, of which I had several issues.
Force Works.
Kid and Play. Kid and Play. The rap duo. No, Force Works. I mean, I love Force Works. That was the spinoff of West Coast Avengers. I have a paste up page because I wrote a letter.
That trap right there.
I know.
Charlie
you did. I will tell you all about Force Works.
If you've been around for 434 episodes, you've probably heard us talk about Force Works.
Heard a lot about
more times.
And the West Coast Avengers. Yes, absolutely.
This is truly the official source of Force Works comics. So take that to the bank. So Barbie ran for I'm trying to think of how many, like 58 issues. And
what?
Yes, they're
God.
It's funny because they were like more like rather than a total story, it like had individual strips. Like it was telling like specific things. Like one was looking good, feeling great, how to do the Barbie walk. It was just basically how Barbie walks, and she tells you how to do it. I'm like, this is compelling storytelling. No wonder girls hated comic books because they're like speaking down to them. I mean, we wanted to see Barbie going off on adventures and doing things. Barbie had so many personas as a doctor, an astronaut, whatever.
Instead of breaking stereotypes, this was reinforcing them. Because and it's funny. And it's funny. The Barbie walk. It leads me right back to what we've seen in the trailers for the Barbie film. Is that you see Margot Robbie as Barbie when she's going to take her shoes off when she steps out of her high heels. Her heels are suspended in the air.
They're naturally,
they're naturally curved in the high heel format. So.
Yeah. Well, here you go, Charlie. Here's some of the other things you would get from these issues. You'd get stories teaching how to responsibly react if you find a baby bird, how to host a funny Olympics party, how to rescue a dog from a frozen pond, and somewhat terrifyingly, the answer Barbie comes up with for one that isn't is, for God's sake, don't go on the ice, but to form a human chain and put multiple children at risk. Kids, don't listen to Barbie.
I was going to say that. I mean, you saw that. I mean, that played out at the beginning of It's a Wonderful Life, right? George fell in the frozen water.
Yeah, it ran for 63 issues. They also did a spin-off title called Barbie Fashion, and that ran for 53.
I have just no. I mean, I'm sure going into Argos Books, which is where I picked up my single issues when I was a kid in 1991. I know this was on the rack at the same time I was picking up Kid and Play, but it just right over my head because again, like you said, I didn't have a sister, so it was not on my day-to-day radar. And by that time we were teenagers. So it was off the radar altogether. But this article ends with the most important question. Now, where are all the Oppenheimer comics at?
Yes, all those fun antics that Oppenheimer got into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, well, speaking of fun antics, and it's funny, we've had 4 fun stories that have some relevance, but I don't even know where to get started with this one. So by all means.
Okay. So yes, it's a lean news story because, obviously projects are on hold, but Tyrant, I've gone to them a couple times because they do fun little, just like the movies of 1983 and they'll review them. They did Stroker Ace, by the way, Charlie, let you know, apparently not a good film because it was essentially just a drinking party where Burt Reynolds and his buddies got together, drank a lot, and because they thought they could just put whatever on the screen, whatever. But Tyrant does a retro trailer look back at certain things, and they did one for the 1980 fantasy film Hawk the Slayer starring Jack Palance. I'm like, ooh, I've never heard of this thing. Is Jack Palance the hero? Because 80, because I'm like, he's kind of old anyways. Probably not. Right. Well,
years before City Slickers. 10 years before City Slickers. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just going to give the premise of this movie. So 1980 fantasy films. Let's just say, other than Excalibur and maybe Dragon Slayer, there were literally no other fantasy films that were worth watching. So basically, it's a fantasy adventure film that follows the story of a warrior named Hawk, who embarks on a quest to rescue his kidnapped sister from the clutches of the evil sorcerer Voltan, who is played by Jack Palance. And Hawk is played by John Terry. No one knows who he is. He's on a mission. He's on a journey, and he brings, I love this, a diverse group of warriors with him, including a dwarf, an elf, a giant like woman. So two things: a giant and a giant
all the
woman,
boxes, all of them,
a sorceress and a thief. Essentially, Hawk, we find out watching the trailer, is blood brothers with Voltan, who is the Satan's warrior or whatever, with like he's got a thing over his face with his mask. And then the best part about this, basically, Charlie, is the fact that Hawk controls the psychic sword or something. And if you knew anything about fantasy, you needed an iconic sword, like Thundercats.
This one had like a claw with a light up ball in it. I mean, it was
a ball. Yeah, it was like
it was. And then at the same time, the sorceress character, which did she wear a blindfold with an eye in the middle?
Yeah,
but at some point, and this trailer made a lot of use of quick cuts repeating the same thing, like catch the sword, catch the sword, catch the sword.
Yes.
And then, but shooting at one point, flip, 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 flip. At one point, the sorceress produces out of her robe glowing rectangles, and just like she goes, it reminded me from the Fast and the Fast X, where the Roman, the black character, was throwing dust. That kind of reminded me of that, like bah.
So I don't understand why he did that. Didn't understand it. Didn't make any sense.
But what was nice about this link is that it did illustrate that the whole 93-minute film is available on YouTube. So go for it.
Yes. There were some great magical moments, of course, where they keep talking about blood brothers and blood. Like, they're blood brothers, but they must battle in blood. There was the sorceress
in blood?
who used like smoke that came out, and then they made like
and the little glowing rectangles, smoke.
And then and then you had Hawk in the middle of those, like, I think it's been on Buck Rogers, but those like rotating discs that were neon that he was sitting in the middle of, and he just disappeared.
They did that. It was from the original Superman movie. That's what the Zod and his minions were in before they got shipped off to the Phantom Zone.
It's recycling all the props, because you had this movie. Yes.
Oh my God. Yes.
But yeah, this was the bad old days, folks. There wasn't a lot of good in the world of science fiction and fantasy. And if you didn't have a big budget, you looked like this movie. So check out, because I mean, the tagline says, "Beyond the edge of darkness, there's a world of sword and sorcery. Hawk the Slayer."
Beyond the edge of darkness. My. Well, that takes us to the end of the news, and boy, what a great way to put a pin in it. But it's time to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. We got to get down to the Geek Easy, talk about things that we're enjoying this week. Down in Nastyville, Scugtown. Let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Charlie, I watched a new movie on Netflix. It is called Nimona. Nimona is an animated film that was brought out by Annapurna Films. This originally was going to be a Fox film, but because from Fox Animation. But after Disney bought Fox, they said, well, we don't need animation because we've got lots of animation. So this was a dead project, and it got picked up. This is based on a graphic novel. Actually started off as a webcomic that got a big audience, then was published in basically trade paperback form. And it's actually it actually was a National Book Award finalist. So very popular work. And it's essentially about a knight who is essentially framed for the death of the Empress, and it goes from there. This knight, yeah, and so the comic's very well beloved. I actually want to read the trade now because I'm like, oh, I really like this. The movie is really cool. The movie is a really unique animation style. After seeing like Spider-Verse and things like that, it kind of feels that way. It's very frantic is the best way to put it, because of the main character Nimona. So Nimona is essentially, like I said, it's based about this knight who's done wrong, framed for the death of the empress as he's about to become like the head of the Knight's Guard, and he absconds and essentially is branded a villain, and he is defeated. And he's essentially trying to figure out who framed him, and along the way he runs into this girl named Nimona. She's got pink hair. She's kind of crazy, a little crazy, and she's voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The main character is Riz Ahmed, who's been in a bunch of other things. So great cast, really well done, and the artwork is hilarious. Nimona is a shape changer, by the way. So she turns into like a rhino. She'll change into a squirrel. And it's really fun. We watched this as a family because I told Chris and Logan about it. We started watching a little bit of it and we're like, oh, let's just watch the rest of it. So really dug into it, really loved it. I think it's one of those animated films that it's for all ages, but it does hit on different levels, which is great. It's like I said, it's goofy at times, it's crazy, but there is a romance between the knight that was framed and essentially it's like it's the ancestor of her name was Glorith, who basically defended the realm from the evil monsters. There is this knight named Golden Loin, which I like the Golden Loin. So there's a romance between the two knights. So it's LGBTQ positive. It's it doesn't shy away. It's a known fact and it's fine. Nice. And they do some unique things because this is like you think it's a fantasy tale, but it is set in kind of almost like a modern world with actually more science fiction with the vehicles and the technology. They have like social media, which I think is kind of interesting.
Oh, how funny.
Knights. So it's really a unique blend of everything. But I think this movie was really well done, and it really makes me happy that this got saved and got put on Netflix. So it's there for everybody to see. It just came out like 2 weeks ago. It was a big surprise. We loved it in our family. So if you're looking for something that's just fun for all ages, this movie really nails it, especially after like Spider-Verse and movies like that, where it like treats the audience like they know you're intelligent, you can follow along. They did that here. So it's definitely really well.
No way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, cool. Well, my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got?
Yes, on the elliptical today, I was watching, this previous week, because I also watched the most recent Strange New Worlds, which we don't have to talk about because obviously those are coming out weekly. Right. But I watched Secret Invasion episode 3. You did as well. Mm-hmm. This series, Charlie, I don't know if I think there's 6 episodes, right?
I feel like I looked into it and that's it. Yeah, that is typical. Loki was that way. Falcon Winter Soldier was that way. I think that's been the norm, but we might have to check. But anyway, so this takes us kind of to the halfway point. So where are you with the series? I don't know.
It's like it's peaks and valleys for me. Like this episode felt like a valley, where after the last episode, I'm like, yeah, I get where they're going.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and I think at this point, we had another death. So spoilers, if you're listening, spoilers. Amelia Clark was killed, right? Supposedly. I don't know if anybody can reliably believe anyone actually is really dead. Right. And then we also get the big surprise that Fury's wife, which is Lara Priscilla Vara, is her real name, but she goes, Priscilla is her human name, and then he called her Scylla. So I was like trying to get these two together. So she is apparently in cahoots with potentially a Skrull version of James Rhodey.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about this. And the other part is these are supposed to be enhanced Skrulls. That's a big part of the thing.
The Super Skrulls, which got a name drop.
Which exactly they did. And I'm like, okay, now it's time to show your cards because we really need to see something with this because you're building up. And we're almost 90 minutes into this thing. And it's like, what's going to happen?
Halfway, potentially. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the only reason we've seen part of the power is Mark called this out. He said when Talos and Gravik are together. He stabs his hand.
And he slides it out because he's got the extremis, which we know from Iron Man 3. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was it. So that was the one point when I was watching it was like, oh, that's cool. But again, a lot of it, I watched it on Wednesday, April, and I always watch those things first thing, and it was just kind of like, okay. I'm waiting for the hook. I was much more excited at the last kind of ground level one of these, which to me was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was a little bit more based in, it was a little bit more rooted in not superpowery stuff. I was more engaged. There was more going on. I just felt like there was more happening. There were more moving pieces. It was exciting. There was more surprises. And with this, I'm just like, I'm struggling to stay interested, which is a drag. I hate to say it. But like you said, peaks and valleys. So if this was a low, then the next episode should, mathematically speaking, be a high, right?
Yeah, and I think it's held back by the fact that this is going to lead into something else. Yeah. So I don't know how much they can really do with this series because they know that any threads are going to have to be led into something else, which I don't know if that's the Marvels. I don't know where this is going. I think this, once again, we're in this realm of, except for Kang, nobody else knows where the MCU is going right now. And that seems to be more of a hindrance than a help where it used to be. Because it's kind of like everything's hinged, but nobody's really that interested in where it's going. So it's like, ooh.
Yeah, there's no good hinge. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But anyway, Secret Invasion over on Disney Plus every Wednesday. So we will talk about it next week and see what's going on. So all right. As far as me, we had it was fun. We were going to go see the new Insidious film today. And it's the 5th film in the series, which I didn't realize. My wife was feeling under the weather. We didn't end up going. I had put it in our family calendar. It's called the Insidious, the Red Door. I just called it Insidious, the Red Roof Inn. I thought that made sense. But anyway, we thought, we ought to start, watch these movies again, kind of get ramped up. We could at least watch one. And then when we didn't end up going, we kept watching them. The first 2 films are on Max. So you can catch them there. But going to films 3 and 4, they are available for rental. But Todd, I was telling you, as the savvy consumer that I try to be, I go to Vudu and I look for it. There is a bundle of the 4 films for $20. So rent the films for $4 each or buy them for $5. So I did purchase the films. They're now on my Fandango Vudu. So we started watching the third one. So the first 2 films revolve around the Lambert family. And this was filmed and I assume set in suburban Los Angeles. That their son, played by Ty Simpkins, who is the kid in Iron Man 3, who makes an appearance at the end of Avengers Endgame, that everybody says, who's that kid standing behind Bucky and Falcon? It's Ty Simpkins, grown up. But this came out in 2009, so this is before that.
2010.
2010.
I was looking at it, yeah.
Iron Man 3 came out in 2013, so Ty Simpkins is a little younger, but he is a child. He is the child of Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne's characters. He has, and he has a younger brother and a baby sister. And in the course of this new house that they're in, he falls down, bumps his heads, and apparently goes into a coma. But what really happens is he gets lost in the spirit world because as a child, he has, and what we later find out he's inherited from his father, Patrick Wilson, is astral projection. So he got lost in the spirit world and they couldn't get him back, even though his body appeared healthy. His spirit was missing. So they have to call in actress Lynn Shay, whose character name I'm forgetting because she's on screen and I just call her Lynn Shay.
Elise Rainier.
There you go. And she brings in, she has the duo of Specs and fat guy with a beard. I can't remember the other guy. I know Specs is Australian actor Lee Winnell, or actor and director, because the guys on Weekly Planet must know him because they drop his name from time to time.
Wikipedia says it's Tucker, played by Angus Simpson.
Oh, there you go. Gotcha. Well, he's a big burly dude. First film, I mean, it's your typical horror film jump scare. But I'm going full spoilers with this. At the end of the first film, Lynn Shay's character is killed. But in the second film, she helps Patrick Wilson in the spirit world because what killed her was the spirit that escaped from Ty Simpkin that took over Patrick Wilson. Then he's on the rampage through the second film. And Lynn Shay just becomes a regular ass ghost. She's now helping Specs and Angus T. What's his butt. That was the first two films. Then they jump into the third film, which is a prequel, because you know what? She can't just be dead all the time. So they go back to when she's alive. Now she's helping out a teenage girl who's the daughter of Dermot Mulroney, who's the president in Secret Invasion. There you go. Ties it back to Marvel. And again, it's a different demon and it's taken her over. And yet, she was trying to reach her mother in the spirit world, but a demon followed her back. So I don't know. The third film is vastly inferior to the first two, because even the dialogue is just we're just like, obviously those films did well. The first film crushed it clearly in some regard, but probably like you said.
Oh boy, I'm looking at this shortly.
Yeah.
The first film cost $1.5 million, made $100 million. Wow.
Exactly my point. So like you said, you can make this for nickels and then your profit margin is like 1,000,000%. So they made a third one and or they made a second one. Obviously that comparatively did well. Maybe they pumped a little extra money into it. But again, it's cheap makeup, it's jump scares, it's lighting, it's using common locations, this house, or, using, this location in LA that blah, 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 people use all the time. And, they did the third thing, and then they get into the fourth movie, which I know we saw that came out during COVID. I think it's called the Lost Key or something. It was a theater and video
Key,
one.
2018.
Yeah. I thought it was 2021. Are you sure?
Wikipedia doesn't lie.
It could. I felt like it came out during COVID, but I must be mistaken. We watched it during COVID. I know that because it's one of those, what are we going to watch? And it popped up. But anyway, if you dig that kind of thing, I won't say it's dramatically well made, but it's freaky. Give it a stab. But anyway, the fifth film is in the theaters now. And Todd, we were talking to the pre-roll. You had some dope on this one. Patrick Wilson, the star, is the director. These films, not to be confused with the Conjuring series, in which Patrick Wilson and Verna Farmiga play a stylized version of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were real life mediums and ghost hunters back in the 70s.
Yeah, so it's been hard for me to like which one is which, and I'm like,
I know,
Conjuring the one I liked, the other one I'm like, I don't know. So in marketing the new movie, Patrick Wilson's directing it. He has also done a music video covering with the band Ghost, which, Charlie, I'm not sure if you were the band Ghost. This thing is like this huge, like,
I feel
almost
like I've
like
heard of it. Yes,
a modern day Kiss, where they dress up in like these weird outfits. They have action figures. They're white fake.
Are they
crosses and things like that?
Swedish or something like that?
Maybe.
I think our mutual friend of the show and contributor, Candy McFarland, Sweets. I think she's
probably
a big fan. She's talked to me about them. Yeah, so it rings a bell.
Huge following. Their music is a little different. They have like their personas and things. So they're kind of like a modern day Kiss is the best way to put it. Which is kind of cool. I mean, I like that idea of that. But they have done a cover with Patrick Wilson actually singing on it of the movie Stay by Shakespeare Sisters. Remember that song? Stay with me.
I just think of Lisa Loeb. You say, okay, fine. I guess there's more than one way to say.
Stay was very early. It was like the Shakespeare Sisters of the song. It's kind of like dark and weird.
I remember. Yeah, Shakespeare, very college radio. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but they did a cover and Patrick Wilson sings on it. So check that out.
Weird. But anyway, so once again, if you enjoy these films, spend $20, get all four of them. If you just want to sample them, they're over on Max, which you probably have anyway. And Insidious 5, The Red Roof Inn, now in theaters. Go support this.
It's going to be number one.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and apparently April said to me, well, this is going to be the last one. And I'm like, it'll be the last one if it bombs, like Indiana Jones, but we'll be talking about
They
that
can always find another demon. There's no lack of demons in this world.
There's a whole lot of demons. So, all right. Well, otherwise, I was doing a little comic book reading while I was getting my new car detailed this morning. They were adding the undercoating, overcoating. You know, I got upsold. They do the super raincoat or something.
Could you really tell if they did anything? I don't know. They told me they did.
I honestly can't. It smelled slightly more new car when I got back in. But anyway, so I had about an hour to sit with my tablet and listening with my AirPods, listening to my music and reading comics. So I read the most recent issue of Deep Space Nine, The Dog of War, which is a fun little mini series. It's set during the sixth season of DS9, so during the Dominion War. Jadzia Dax is still a character, and it has to do with Quark brokering a purebred corgi named Latinum. The crew comes to call him Laddie. It's a delightfully fun story. And
what is he doing with the corgi?
He's a broker. He's selling it. He's acting as a broker agent. But it ends up into this big intrigue where there are spies involved in a piece of Borg technology. This is very typical for me with the Star Trek. I enjoy the story. The art is crap. It's just absolute garbage. And you know me, the when you're doing something off of a television series, you're dealing with likenesses and they're total junk, but also the uniform stuff, that's very big for me. I'm very, when something is done wrong with the uniforms in one of these Star Trek comics, it's really wrong. And it just really pulls me right out. So enjoying the story, but I feel like the art is getting worse, even if it's the same team. I think that's on issue 4 or 5. I have a subscription, so it just dumps onto my Comixology. But it's funny. I was thinking, I'm like, the reason I keep being subscribed to these Star Trek comics is that's all the Star Trek we're likely to get for the next year is in comics, because we've got Strange New Worlds right now. We are thinking we'll have Lower Decks. I read a headline today that there's going to be a Star Trek panel at San Diego Comic-Con, which is in a couple weeks. It's going to feature around Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, and I'm drawing a blank on whatever the hell the third show is. It's not Prodigy. And it's interesting, the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, the animated series, they're having an animation panel. I'm like, just that, huh? But yeah, so I'm
actors are striking. There will be no actors there.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say, so I would hope that means Lower Decks season 4 will get it later in the summer. Otherwise, why would they be having a panel about it? And then Discovery season 5 we're supposed to drop in February. So we'll see. So I also was catching up on the last 2 episodes of Amazing Spider-Man. And again, when you had a comic that's been around for over 60 years, you're kind of winding and waving in every direction, and you're dipping back. They're pulling back a plot line from probably 10, 15 years ago about this dude. He's mastered a demon from the Incan Mayan times, and we're seeing a flashback of when this most recent run started. A year had passed between the end of the past volume and this one, where Peter and Mary Jane were together, blah, blah, blah. This new volume starts, Peter and Mary Jane not speaking at all, and she's with this new guy and appears to have a child that looks just like her and calls her mom. Nobody knows why. So they're like, what's a blah, 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 and this and that. So I've been talking about this for a while. I absolutely loved, we got John Romita Jr., Zeb Wells, great creative team that's doing it right now. They did the first 22 issues. They took a little hiatus where they had another artist in, which I didn't really care for. Peter's dating the Black Cat right now again. But these 2 issues are jumped back in time and are supposed to detail what happened with the sun god thing and why are Peter and Mary Jane not speaking anymore and who's Paul. So he's fighting the sun god thing. Peter and Mary Jane get transported to this apocalyptic alternate pocket of New York where they meet this Paul guy, and we're only 2 issues in. And of course, I'm 3 issues back because I'm reading it on Marvel Unlimited. All I'm saying is waiting for it to be done so we can get back to, I hate to sound like you, Todd, but I want to get back to seeing my Spider-Man doing cool stuff and fighting his regular heroes. I mean, you see my new prized possession over here, my ceramic $10 from Walmart Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. I always love Spider-Man, but I'd like to see him fighting his rogues gallery, which is over here. I have 2 shelves of Spider-Man villains. We got a lot to do. I don't need some raw sun god in an apocalyptic New York. So, you know what? With anything with comics, and Todd, you know this from being an X-Men person, you just wait it out. You wait out the bad stuff, and it'll change. Because again, in 60 years, this is what they'll be saying. We've had 30 years of The Simpsons, almost 35 years. And if they're still making it in another 30 years, it'll be like, well, okay, well, this is season 97. Well, we'll wait it out and see if 98 gets better. So I'm waiting. I'm just waiting to see. So you know what, Zeb Wells and John, I'm over on Twitter at the C3. If you're listening, look forward to what you got next. Even though we know episode, I think I finished episode 20, issue 23. We know 26 is where there's a death. That's Kamala Khan. So that's coming up for me. So
Damn you previews. Oh,
damn you previews. All right, well, that's all I got. So that is it for the Geek Easy. Todd, time to get out there. The Air Qantas app. Get us that economy flight down to the land down under. We've got Hologram Tina and the mutants waiting for us with a new topic this week. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we're doing a new topic, which is kind of evergreen because I'm sure these will only grow as time passes. And that is, it's called What If. And it's basically, what if certain comic book movies and TV shows had happened? It kind of makes you think, like, back in the day of Wizard magazine, Charlie, if you remember, or maybe even Starlog, we always, as kids of the, before the internet, the us Gen X's, basically we were very rarely getting good information about like what was going to actually be on the TV screen of the movie. Typically, we would see the first gasp with a commercial on TV or a trailer on the movie screen. So, we're in a much better place now. We're getting quality entertainment, which is great. But there are a lot of projects that we thought were going to happen over time that never did. And it's kind of like, what would have happened if it did? Because back in the day, rights of movies and things were all over the place, especially with Marvel. But even independent stuff like the Spawn or Image Comics or things like that, kind of were always over the place. So we're going to start with movies. This is all going to be about comic book properties, movie or TV. That were going to be on movie or TV. So we'll start there.
Right. Cool.
In the future, we may do another where it's other things that are like properties that were supposed to be something, but this is just all comic book focused. All right. So.
All right, what do you got?
So basically, Screen Rant is bringing us our first lift, and this is going to be kind of a mishmash of a lot of different things. One point, Guillermo del Toro was going to make The Incredible Hulk, Charlie.
Oh, boy. Could it have been any worse than Ang Lee?
Back in 2010, when MC was still young, Marvel was developing 3 new TV shows on ABC, and Hulk was going to be one of those.
We're talking about television. Okay. Oh,
yes,
all right.
yes. But interestingly...
it was after the film, the Louis Leterre's 07 film, or 08 film, yeah.
Yeah, and Cloak and Dagger and Punisher were actually rumored as well at the time. And obviously we know Cloak and Dagger went to Freeform, which was ABC Family. And then the Punisher went to Netflix.
Right. Talk about all over the place. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, but obviously ABC, we talked about that. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really and Inhumans were the only projects that went on to go from Marvel on that network. So everything else kind of fell apart. Del Toro, obviously, projects like this, if they don't happen, then directors move on. And that's exactly what Del Toro did. It didn't happen. And Del Toro won an Oscar in the meantime, did Hellboy. And then essentially he's thought about making some other things, but I don't think anything he's working on in comic book realm is moving forward either. So there you go.
My.
Yes. Then Darren Aronofsky, which is, think of like his movies. They did The Wrestler and other gritty films. He was supposed to make a Wolverine film, Charlie.
Wow. Now this could have been something along par of like Logan, right? Who James Mangold, who, just did The Dial of Destiny, which we really enjoyed. I thought it was a well-made film, even if it's not exactly blowing up the box office. This really could have been something. So this was back in 2010. He and Christopher McQuarrie, who is I think they do a lot of work together. Did he write Logan as well? Yeah,
I believe so. And he's also worked with Tom Cruise on his movies too. I believe he.
Oh, there you go.
Is involved in the Mission Impossible films. Yeah,
there you go. Gotcha. So this was again back in 2010. This ended up bleeding into 2013's The Wolverine. And did Mangold do that one as well?
Yes, we know he did. Yeah, so he took over.
Both great
and Logan. Yeah,
both great flicks. So it would have definitely brought more of an artsy fartsy indie.
I don't think we would have gotten the Silver Samurai in his movie though.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. I think you've said to me, he says, "Boy, the Wolverine was 2/3 of a great film until you get to that third act." Ugh,
a little too comic booky, which I know it's horrible for me to say, but it did feel like it took away from the the gravity of everything else we got in that film.
Right. And speaking of comic booky, that kind of bleeds us right into the next selection. James Cameron's aborted take on Spider-Man. Now, everybody knows, listens to the show, that I am scarcely a fan of James Cameron because of the Avatar films. And I love Spider-Man. I was just talking about it. So in the 90s, I think, this was in the early 90s. Script evolved from this that would have had Electro and the Sandman as villains, which we eventually did get on the big screen through the Tobey Spider-Man, moving on to the Andy Garfield Spider-Man. Character bounced around prior to this. It was Roger Corman was attached to it, which we'll talk about him a little further down the line with another Marvel property. But cast could have included Leonardo DiCaprio,
Why not? Oscar winner.
As Peter Parker, and Maggie Smith as Aunt May, with R. Lee Ermey, the famous drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, as JJ.
I'm in.
Yeah, Lance Hendrickson is Electro. Awesome. Ash from Aliens. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I feel bad that I missed this, even though
I'm in. Especially there's supposed to be a sex scene on the Brooklyn Bridge, Charlie. Come on.
Oh, yeah, that's how Gwen Stacy died. Too much. Oh, yeah, oh, my gosh.
She died of passion.
She died of passion. Oh, my God. Died of a not broken heart. So anyway, what a bummer. Probably deals being shuffled around, and I'm sure this probably had something to do with, Marvel's financial annihilation in the 90s where they were going.
Yeah, I think the Toy Biz, the rights and everything going around there. Yeah, we eventually got it righted, and we are where we are. But the funny one is the next film is Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, which it did get made, but it was kind of like more of it was an obligation, so they made it, and it was never released and available to the broad audiences. The only way to still see this film is through that guy at the comic book convention.
You gave me a disc of it, which may or may not be floating around this house somewhere. But I feel like this has got to be on YouTube. I would be surprised.
It might be taken down just because of that. Marvel but it's available if you know a guy.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this film for the time. I thought it wasn't bad for what it was based on the budget.
Right, a $1.50, $1.5 million, for something that they were just gonna cram in there. Constantine Films, did that just as we don't want to lose the rights, which was and I'm sure they promptly went out of business. So
they probably just bought them. We're just buying you, and then you can go away. Yeah.
All right, George Miller and Justice League. Now, George Miller is famous for Mad Max Fury Road, great film that we got a couple of years ago.
What's that movie with the pig, Babe? He made the Babe movies too.
Yeah, that was him.
I know, it's crazy. Yes,
so random. Oh my God! So this would have been. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, when was this? This was in
it would have been
the early aughts or the mid aughts. This said, it says 10 years ago, so 2013. That would have been right around the time Man of Steel came out. So anyway, we'll just kind of label this as being in the aughts. But my God, what could have been, because what we got was we got what we got.
George Miller is such a great filmmaker. He does something with nothing. Yeah. He makes great films. And it was funny because Armie Hammer was supposed to play Batman, and they were supposed to bring in other characters in this film. And it just fell apart. Obviously, Armie Hammer, if you know anything about him, he's kind of a weirdo, talking about eating women like a cannibal.
He literally no longer exists. I don't know who you're talking about.
Exactly. Yes. Part of the Arm and Hammer,
Arm and Hammer
money. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a shame that George Miller. I would love to have him actually direct a hero-based film, because I think he'd be excellent. But obviously, we're waiting for him to do. Tina should know. The next movie in the Furiosa series with Mad Max. So Furiosa is supposed to be coming out. So that's what he's doing.
That'd be great. This next one, I am dying to see this. Everybody remembers the Incredible Hulk TV show from the 70s, which in the 80s turned into TV films, which gave us incarnations of Thor, which we talked about the I think it was the trial of the Incredible Hulk or the death of the Incredible Hulk. We got Daredevil, we got Thor. We've talked about that before. But the death of the Incredible Hulk was also set to introduce She-Hulk, played by Brigitte Nielsen, 80s icon. I just watched Beverly Hills Cop a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, Red Sonja.
Red Sonja, exactly. So she got cut from that, and then clearly that was it. There was a backdoor pilot which didn't materialize, even though some marketing materials with a release date in 1990 did come out. So that's a bummer, especially since her career turned into The Flavor of Love on VH1.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, oh yeah, she is.
Okay, Flavor's dead though, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Somebody's dead,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, add us on
that
Twitter.
That relationship was going to kill somebody, I think, with this clock. Yes.
We need that information, and we don't want to Google it, so hit us up. All right.
I love these pictures of her. Basically, she's just lightly green with some green makeup with some green sleeves. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Let's burn a little bit quickly through the rest of these. What else we got?
Yeah, the Wachowskis, who, if you're familiar, they're the ones that are behind Bound, and they did the Matrix films.
Right.
And they were supposed to do Plastic Man, which makes no sense at all. Obviously, Plastic Man is a character that is wacky, goofy, who is a criminal, got this abilities, and he's kind of very similar to other elongated men and Fantastic Men to have that ability. And apparently, they were going in 96. We're going to write a film based on that character, and they were going to go in the world of weird with this character.
World of Weird.
And it eventually fell apart, and they went on to do The Matrix instead.
Awful. My. Oh goodness. Boy, we get more juice in 90s talking. David S. Goyer was going to do Doctor Strange, and Goyer we got him he's, let's see here, the writer.
He's known for the Blade trilogy. He did some of the Nolan's he was a writer and story writer for the Nolan films, also involved Batman versus Superman. He's got a really sketchy track record. Like some stuff is good and other things is like really horrible. And he also even did the David Hasselhoff, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Now
movie.
that is a gem that I would like to find somewhere, because David Hasselhoff nails it in that role.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that. I don't know why, but it was so fun. Yeah.
Lisa Rinna is the Countess. Wasn't it Lisa Rinna as the Countess?
I believe so. Yeah, it would have been her.
Who is Dum Dum?
I don't remember.
I can't remember now. So, but anyway,
George went.
Norm, Dum Dum.
Exactly. Maybe,
my God.
Yeah,
this next one is pretty famous, and it's pretty well renowned. Edgar Wright is a great filmmaker. Gave us Baby Driver. What was his most recent film?
The British London scene film with all the music in the 60s.
Last Night in Soho.
Correct.
Great
movie.
flick.
Yeah.
And a great soundtrack. But anyway, very famously, he was on board to do Ant-Man, which ended up coming out in 2015. But he went loggerheads with Marvel and ended up quitting because they wanted to, they needed to impose the MCU on him. And as a filmmaker, he's like, I don't want to have it. So that would have been something. I mean, it ended up being a pretty enjoyable film. And who ended up being the director? Peyton Reed ended up directing. Yeah,
which he's a journeyman guy. He's kind of like Joe Johnson, who did Captain America, the first movie. Yeah, a guy with, I would say, not a lot of like style, but can look into project.
Right, and he did, because I found that film enjoyable, and I like the second one as well. We don't need to talk about the third one. So, okay, Wolfgang Peterson and Akiva Goldsman, BVS. What do we got going on here?
Weird, Charlie. Yes. Wolfgang Peterson, who directed Neverending Story, was supposed to make this film, Batman versus Superman, before obviously the one we got was supposed to happen. Akiva Goldsman, who wrote Seven, they're supposed to pair up, and it was supposed to be Bruce Wayne was apparently dead, and a new girlfriend who the Joker kills, kind of crazy, where they ended up going and combating each other. And Jude Law and Josh Hartnett were both considered for Man of Steel, and Colin Farrell was supposed to be Batman. And this it was supposed to be happening in 2003, but it fell apart.
Oh my goodness! So this was a pretty well-known one because this happened kind of in the modern age. Jeffrey Bell and Paul Zabowski.
Zabeski, yeah.
Most Wanted, which was a spin-off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the origin story of Mockingbird and her boyfriend / ex-husband, Lance Hunter, the British guy. I'm assuming he was created for the show. My wife loves that show. I was always kind of like, all right, it's on. I'm watching it. But yeah, it was all set to rock and roll. The characters left S.H.I.E.L.D. in, I think, the last season, and there was a shakeup in management, and it went bye-bye, and then she went on to the Orville, and boo on the Orville. Give me a chance to talk about how much I dislike the Orville.
Yeah, we've covered that. If you've been a fan of that, our show, you obviously know our fandom is not with that show. But yeah, this is, once again, I felt like they were trying to make this thing happen. It's like, okay, we don't care enough about the main series. Why would we care about these two people doing more things that are not connected to the MCU?
Right.
Moving on.
And that's exactly what the executive shot. This next one is very famous, and unfortunately from a very toxic guy, but starring the star of the last thing we talked about, the fantastic Adrian Palicki as Wonder Woman. This was back in 2007.
This is a different one, Charlie. This is not that one. No, so originally Joss Whedon was supposed to make a Wonder Woman movie in 2007. Okay. So this is one thing that we were supposed to get that. Obviously, it made sense because he's on fire.
Yeah, right.
He did Buffy. He did.
he was on. This was when he was. His career was on fire, not. His career was on fire.
Correct. Yes, he was hot, and he did this.
Yeah, he was hot, not on fire.
He did a bunch of other projects. So Joss Whedon was kind of like the guy who does edgy dialogue. He can do really things, and he was supposed to be doing this a movie about Princess Diana, and it fell apart. Apparently, did not work at all. Of course, then we were supposed to get a Wonder Woman TV series with Adrian Palicki
and
NBC. They did a pilot.
Yeah, there's footage out there. You can find the pilot somewhere too, I think.
And I really want to. So once again, might have to talk to a guy at a comic book convention to find a pilot.
Let's talk to a guy. Remember the guy with all the Blu-ray discs? $50.
Yeah, he knows everybody. Yeah,
$50 will get you all 10 seasons of Small or of Stargate SG-1. Anyway, speaking of the DC averse and thinking about Smallville, Alfred Gough and Miles Millar's Aquaman, starring the not buff but not as buff Alan Richardson, who is now Jack Reacher. We saw him in Fast X. Direct spinoff of the Aquaman. Sorry, too much watching those. Too much listening to the Aussie say Aquaman. Aquaman spinoff of his character.
And actually, they weren't going to use Alan Richardson. They were actually going to then pivot and go to Justin Hartley,
who is the Green Arrow,
as Arthur. I know exactly. This is how it gets so weird in all of these things. Yes. That's the thing. It was kind of crazy, Charlie. So Richardson was in. It became very weird. They shot a pilot, which was ultimately passed on the CW. Hartley then went on to be Green Arrow on Smallville. Kind of crazy. Okay. And so Richardson was Aquaman on Smallville. It was so weird. But that was the time when you were going to get shows. We got no spin-offs of Smallville, which you think of how many the Arrowverse did. And it's kind of a crime that it never happened.
It's very weird. This one I had absolutely no idea about. Now we did in the last 5 or 6 years on Fox, we got a spinoff. We got an X-Men spinoff called The Gifted, which had a few established X-Men characters, like Polaris was one of them. But there were instead possibly going to be one about the Hellfire Club, which is very famous in X-Men parlance, and even the photograph here refers to characters that we saw in X-Men First Class, including January Jones as Emma Frost, and Kevin Bacon's character of Sebastian Shaw.
Yep.
But this was, again, probably did a little jumping around and didn't quite get made, and then they thought The Gifted was a better pick.
And Hellfire Club, the Hellfire Club, you could go darker, kind of like almost think of like Lucifer, where you could do like more adult-centric things, because the Hellfire Club, they were known for vices and being the criminal underworld of the mutant world. Right. And it's easier to do just more of a the mutants are persecuted, we're hiding out, and that's what The Gifted was.
Why not?
And then they also made Legion, which it's a show a lot of people found acclaimed, really interesting. It kind of fell flat for me a little bit, but a lot of people did enjoy that show.
My. And then Twisted Superman stories. We have 2 aborted projects, one of which by Tim Burton. This would be after Batman and Batman Returns, where he was just going to jump right on over and take over Superman. The title was eventually Superman Lives, with Nicolas Cage footage that we saw in the animated footage that we saw in The Flash. And yes, big old futuristic update to the costume with lights and big old mullet. And Burton left the project, and that was the end of that.
It was going to have Brainiac, Doomsday, and Lex Luthor. That's too much.
Yeah, well, it's like
all those three things in it.
Like Spider-Man 3, who were the villains in that? Venom, Sandman, and wasn't there and Green Goblin?
And the weird Harry Osborn. Yeah, Green Goblin.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just way too much. So then Kevin Smith gets involved. Film was then called Superman Flyby. Did not last for very long. Completely fell apart. There was a documentary made about it in 2015 called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. So find your information over there.
I probably need to watch that one of these days.
Yeah, I give it a crack. All right, back to David S. Goyer. Green Arrow escaped from Supermax.
Oh, yeah.
So, a whole show about like him escaping from a prison or something?
Essentially, they were going to have Arthur Curry. They were going to have
it's all mixed up. It's all mixed around.
Oliver Queen,
right.
Green Arrow, basically being wrongly convicted of a crime, sent to a Supermax full of villains, and it was going to go from there. And he was going to have to fight off his foes, probably try to find a way, someone that he could partner with, and all these things. And it fell apart. But I remember hearing about that Supermax. They kept on calling that. I'm like, oh, this could be interesting if they pull it up, because they're going to show all these villains and things. That could be kind of cool. But yeah, it didn't happen. And Goyer walked away. And essentially, he worked on Batman Begins: The Dark Knight. So I guess it worked out for him. So then we move on to, we have one more article where we don't want to make sure we miss anything. Screen Rant brought a couple projects forward that I kind of like, didn't know about these. One, obviously, Charlie, Marvel's Damage Control. We were supposed to get this show. It was all about the folks who show up.
But DC did it. They did it with Powerless.
Well, yeah, exactly, which was a very fun show, and I really always wanted to watch. I never finished that show, but I would want to watch more of that. But this was essentially DC, Marvel's version of that, where they were going to be the people that cleaned up the mess. It was supposed to happen, and it was even referenced in Spider-Man Homecoming, and nothing happened because it was supposed to be on ABC, and we know how those things happened. So then one other thing I wanted to call out, I saw this pilot, Justice League of America.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy.
This is based on Justice League International, which we just talked about in the Human Target. Yeah. Yes. And this was a lot of fun.
What a lineup. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was produced...
Is that a Blue Lantern, or is
it's Green Lantern? Yeah, that's actually Green Lantern. The color is off, but essentially in 1997, CBS produced a pilot for Justice League of America based on the Justice League International team. And you actually, it was kind of interesting because it had Atom, Fire, Flash, Green Lantern, and Ice, and it actually wasn't too bad. The costumes were kind of clunky, but didn't look too bad for the time. And it was actually a lot of fun. I've seen it. It's not bad for the time. That's all I'll say. It's one of those weird one-offs, but I mean, at the time, maybe because of Flash, it was on CBS at the time. They thought this could be a good companion for it. It was after that, obviously, but I mean, it could have happened. But
oh my gosh!
Yes.
Well, hey, we scroll past a couple, but we get that we've already talked about. But we get down to Archie to Riverdale and back again, and Return to Riverdale. So it sounds like a pair of TV movies, not like a series. But I love this picture. We get Archie and I recognize that actor. But you got Betty and Veronica. They look like the real estate team that's going to sell you.
Charlie.
They're going to sell you a condo in Malibu.
They have shoulder pads and very cool business suits. Yes, they're all business. Yes.
So this would have been one of the first, if not the first, live action Archie anything. And of course that is, I think that show is still ongoing on the I was going to say
Riverdale.
The CW.
I've heard it's actually one of those shows where it's actually kind of transitioned over time into being more supernatural, surreal.
Right. Well, it gave you
Sabrina showed up on that. Yep.
Yeah, we watched it early on, and then April caught the bug. She really likes Sabrina, but I think this would be a fun time capsule because it reminds me of, remember the Brady Bunch TV movies from the 80s, the Brady Bunch Christmas? That just absolutely jumps out of me.
They used to do a lot of those like TV movies for old properties. They did a Gillis one. They've done a bunch of those. Yeah.
And now now they're just trotting them out as movies.
Remember the Gilligan's Island TV movies they did back in the day were God. Some of those were just kind of crazy. There's one that I want to call out. There is a Lock and Key pilot that was made for, I believe, Fox TV. Never went forward, but there's a pilot. I've always wanted to see this because we did get Lock and Key on Hulu years later. Yeah. So that's out there. It's a really interesting series, good adaptation, but it's the fact that it took one adaptation for network TV to not work and bringing it to streaming service that did work.
Oh my goodness.
And then we scroll down. We talked about She-Hulk obviously already. But Power Pack, Charlie. Power Pack was going to be a thing.
I feel like I've heard about this. But yeah, they have a picture of, like kids, 1991. So again, this is where Marvel is really circling the drain because it was right before the bankruptcy. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Despite the fidelity of Marvel's approach, cause you had, real kids, blah, 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 a nice direct adaptation. The pilot didn't click with young audiences and this was NBC, and this is going to be a Saturday morning cartoon slot. Kind of thing happening.
So weird.
Yeah, I know. Live action. But I mean, they did that kind of thing back in the day. But that was more 80s instead of 90s.
Like Saved by the Bell was, I think, originally a Saturday show versus a primetime show. Yeah.
So very interesting. So okay. They just did this. They did Gotham Knights. There was something called Gotham High, which seems to be kind of similar. And this is in the early odds.
I've never heard of this show before.
Which apparently, right around the same time we got like the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series was then on MTV. This kind of, looking at this picture, kind of gives me that vibe.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're all teens and they're not mortal enemies yet, and they all have the personas.
Yeah, you got Harley and you got Joker, and on you've got Croc, you've got Penguin, you got Two-Face,
Scarecrow, the Riddler.
You got Zaslab there, or whatever that dude's name is. Mad Hatter. But yeah, God, I think that would have been cute. Look at this next one, spin-off from X-Men. They didn't make a spin-off of the X-Men cartoon.
The X-Men Pride of the X-Men. Yeah. So X-Men Pride of the X-Men was essentially a pilot they made. There was a video game essentially based on it. I've seen this pilot before. It's very cool, kind of a cool lineup, but they never went anywhere. It was basically at the same time they had the Spider-Man Amazing Friends, and it was a really cool idea. It never went anywhere. Obviously, we'd have to wait until like the early 90s with the Fox Kids show, which we did get that X-Men. So this one, I remember I saw it. I'm like, I want more of this. And I got nothing until I was a high school kid. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, okay, I'll watch this show on Fox Kids.
I love this next one. And again, it was a live action film. Which still makes the rounds. I think it's out of print. Another one that I've got to find that guy at a comic show who's selling these. And it seems like the shows that we work, like Grand Rapids Comic Con or whatever it is, doesn't have a guy that sells bootleg this. So we got to get back to Fan Expo in Chicago.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man 1977, Nicholas Hammond, who was one of the Van Trapp kids in The Sound of Music. You didn't know? I didn't know that. I just learned that a couple of years ago. But this was supposed to be picked up as a series, would have eventually crossed over with The Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno, which was in production at the time. But apparently Hammond asserts that the unavailability of Lou Ferrigno scuppered the project from getting a series order. So Ferrigno says that he was never approached, so it's a bunch of finger pointing.
I was going to say, what was Ferrigno up to outside of The Incredible Hulk?
Probably nothing. I don't know. But yeah, they have a picture here of the classic Spider-Man. Not a bad looking suit. He has mirrored lenses, which was never really a part of it. So, but they look really snazzy as a pair of sunnies. So we make those at my company. So wink, wink, wink. And then finally, we got a couple. Well, we already talked about Aquaman. With There's Your Boy, and then they were also looking to spin off young Bruce Wayne from Gotham. Yeah, good call.
So wait a few more years until he gets old enough and we're good to go. Yeah. I do want to call out one of my favorite, Saturday afternoon Channel 50 movies, and that is Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah. Big
time. They really wanted to take the Doctor Strange character, develop it, and do something more with it. So they made a movie that actually showed up on TV. It never went anywhere, but it's best known probably for Jessica Walter. She showed up as Morgan Le Fay in this movie for Arrested Development and Archer. So there you go.
God.
It was so goofy. It was so weird. And it was like, why is this on? And did Marvel know this happened?
You're like, what are you guys doing with that? Yeah, it's kind of like what Ira Stephen Bear from Star Trek Deep Space Nine had to say when we were on the cruise. He says, you know what, we were making our show, nobody was paying attention to us, so we did whatever the hell we wanted. This could be what happened here. So oh my goodness. Well, that brings us to a close. It's a lot of crazy stuff. What could have been? I'm sure that some of it would have been entertaining. I'm sure some of it was a definite dodging a bullet. So c'est la vie. But with that, that's the end of the show, gang. Todd, where do people find you out there?
Well, for now, Twitter, but I've signed up for Threads, which is the Instagram equivalent. Yep. Threads isn't bad. We have an SFU account, but at this point, I'm like, I don't know how to filter out rap stars and celebrities I don't care about yet. So it's a little bit overwhelming at this point because there's so many people all at once. So this almost feels like the early days of Twitter, where it's like it's hard to filter and find your tribe. So I'm trying to do that. But as of right now, it's going to be Twitter still as my primary, which is fine because I'm still connecting and finding people there. Same. And, I'm always looking for new people to be on SFU, co-op mode. So if you have a passion and also fansplain, if you have a passion for all things geek and you're a good conversationalist like Charlie and I, we would love to have you talk about the things you love in the world of geek. So that's where I am. So my DMs are open.
Yes. Well, you didn't say what your handle is at T-Extra.
At T-Extra, yes.
And of course at Secret Friends You. I'm over on Twitter for the time being, as you said, at the C3, spell it out. Again, I specialize in Star Trek and Star Wars with Mark. But I also do, obviously, the Facts of Geek Life, which I mentioned at the beginning of the show over on our Patreon, where we talk about classic seasons of old shows. If that is something that is your sparkling passion, drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. So that's where I'm at. My wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey. That is one of the biggest chapters of Starfleet, the International Star Trek Fan Club. We're based here in West Michigan. I also run Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. If you're a Trekker within the sound of my voice, would like to meet other Trekkers in your area, hit us up at that website and at socials thereabout, and we will make it happen. So thank you again, friends, for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.